Look for the premiere of the movie Batman and Jesus, produced in collaboration with King's Tower Productions as part of Myth Information Conference 4 on September 30th, 2017. An audience for the Batman and Jesus movie premiere include Seth Andrews, creator and host of The Thinking Atheist, atheist celebrity Aaron Ra, Mythicist scholar Dr. Richard Carrier, Naked Mormonism podcast creator and host Bryce Blankenagel, CEO of Atheist Republic Allie Jackson, and a slew of other guests. The Myth Information Conference will include the very exciting buzzed belief debate titled Islam in the Age of Trump between Asra Nomani and Faisal Saeed al-Mutar that will be moderated by Matt Dillahunty. The conference will also include a lineup of speakers such as London-based YouTube juggernaut Sargon of Akkad, also YouTube sensations Armored Skeptic and Shoe on Head, and Global Humanist Secular Movement editor Melissa Chen. We will also be hosting a special VIP party where VIP ticket holders will be privy to a private presentation by Ron Miscavige, father of David Miscavige, the leader of Scientology, on his experience with Scientology during and after his escape. To learn more or to purchase tickets for Myth Information Conference 4, visit us at mythicistmilwaukee.com. Now, back to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Myth Informed. Today on the show, we have Emery, and Heather Henderson from the Ardent Atheist podcast. Joseph and I actually had the chance to work with Emery and Heather while we were in LA, and we were looking forward to this interview. Emery and Heather, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. We're excited. Joseph and I were both in LA at different times through our mutual contact, Paul Provenza, and we worked with you guys in different ways, but I had the time of my life. We had Ron Miscavige on the Ardent Atheist show.
Yeah, I saw that.
How was the feedback on that?
It was great. He's phenomenal, first of all. That guy, holy hell. He's going through hell when you really stop and analyze what he's been through. And now he's going around and he's talking about it. And that's amazing. When you've got a family member, especially a son or a daughter, who is as I'm going to get a little hyperbolic here, as evil David Miscarriage, because he should have been. That would have been a better outcome. The man is evil, okay? I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say that David Miscavige is an evil man. I don't even like the word evil. I generally don't like using that word, but there's no better word in our crappy language to illustrate what an awful human being he is. So
What about poopy face?
Poopy face. That's
No?
cute. That's too cute.
Oh, okay.
It's too adorable. And there are people who are into that. So
Yeah.
I don't.
Different subject completely.
Yeah, that's we can talk about that toward the end of the show when we don't want to lose people. But here's the thing. Listening to Ron Miscavige talk about his son is both heartbreaking and absolutely awesome, because his son has turned on him, and now he's going around in public and he's talking about this, and that's got to be hard. Mm-hmm. It's really got to be hard. So I applaud the man.
And he wrote a book about it.
So. He did. He wrote a book about the awfulness that is the air quotes church that is driven by his air quotes son.
Yeah, and just after 40 years of being in, having to escape, I mean, the story really caught my attention like immediately. We had learned that he was in Milwaukee, and we're doing everything we can to help him out. We've relaunched his website, his social media, helping him line up gigs. Like, that's why we were in LA. I lined up the Joe Rogan interview for him, which the church actually caught wind of, and now all of a sudden my name is there's ads being bought under my name, which is really interesting.
Really, where?
Online. You know how you can do Google ads?
Yeah.
So this is that's real. And
so what are they like? I'm Sean and I'm a big phony.
Well, no, how it goes. They start going, they create smear campaigns.
Right, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Did you see that? They're calling Leah Remini.
I think so.
Remini.
they're calling her rude. The church is, I mean,
So rude.
that blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the worst you can do, I think she's single-handedly bringing down that air quotes church. I never like to refer to it as a church. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to ruin lives and take billions of dollars from other people. That's what it is. It's a Ponzi scheme.
Right. And one of the interesting perspectives that you guys have, and I love what you guys do with Ardent Atheists and Skeptically Yours, is you guys have entertainers on, comedians, actors, actresses, people from the LA world talking about these types of topics. And it seems to me like Scientology is kind of interwoven into that industry, is it not?
Oh, very much so. As I told a story on the podcast that we did where you were there with Ron, about a really big-time producer getting a horrifically creepy call from the church. He hadn't been involved with the church but for a year or so when he started out many years ago. And out of the blue, a few years ago, he gets a call from the church saying, we want you to come back on a phone line no one has the number to. And when he said, how did you get this number? He said, there isn't a number we can't get, something along those lines. And we can find you anywhere. It's like he said, don't call me again, and hung up. And I asked him why he doesn't go public with the kind of horrible, threatful thing that happened. And he said, because they'll sue you out of your money. Mm-hmm. He goes, I'm not spending my money to defend myself against those assholes. That's what he said.
Yeah. No, it's insane. And, I hope Ron sees it, and the ex-Scientologists. When I was out there, I got to meet with Spanky Taylor and Tori Chrisman and Jeffrey Augustine and all these ex-Scientology Sea Org members.
Sucker dropper. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, but introducing them to the atheist world, like the people don't, they didn't even realize this was a thing, and I think they're starting to see support from the atheist world, which is kind of interesting. I mean, what do you guys think? Obviously you guys are entertainers, you guys are legitimate entertainers, yet you still work.
Thank you.
You guys work. You talk about atheism and you bring it up, and you're not afraid to take it on. How do you see that tie-in with ex-Scientologists and atheists? Do you think there is a bridge?
Well, absolutely. I mean, again, Leah Remini, but
she's not an atheist.
She's not an atheist. One of the things that blows my mind is coming out of something like, listen, the way you get into Scientology is you are gullible and you are miserable.
And you're also searching for something. You're
That's what I was about to say.
Truth.
You're trying to get answers about how you got here and what's going on afterward. And so to get into Scientology means you're on the hunt for that. Go ahead.
I think that people who are out of Scientology and now into another religion are still asking the same questions, but they're just substituting the Scientology for the new thing that they found, whether it's Christianity or Kabbalah or atheism or anything. They're just searching for the truth.
I came across a girl on YouTube. I'm a member of a Scientology group, an anti-Scientology group that's following the progress of the various fights that the state of Florida and others are having with Scientology. And in that group, someone posted this video of a girl who was in Scientology and now is putting up videos about how she got away from it. And she didn't experience any of the things that Leah's show is talking about, all of the abuse. And she ended up in Christianity, and now she's preaching Christianity. And it breaks my heart to see people getting out of one frying pan of awful ignorance and stupidity and lies and diving into another frying pan of ignorance and stupidity and lies. And it was really sad. I actually engaged her in her comments section, and she's just as deluded. And to me, Scientology, it's not. I always air quotes church when I talk about it now, and it's not what we would think of as a real religion. But when you stop and really analyze it, they're all just as awful. Xenu and the getting your thetans and all of the the silliness is no more absurd and no less absurd than walking on water and the magic tricks that Jesus did and the going to heaven and the soul and all. They're all the same bad idea in different wrapping.
Right.
So you get me going. I'll rail on.
Well, no, I love it. I think the Mormon Church is a very, very similar situation. I think of Scientology. I mean, obviously, Mormonism.
You get your planet.
Right, you get your own planet. Black people or brown skinned people are cursed. They're anti same sex marriages. They have a lot of the same things that you'd see in Scientology, and funnily enough, it's kind of started by the same type of narcissistic con man in the beginning, and the more you learn about these, the more you see how they have this like similar thread as to how they were created and why they were created, and unfortunately, as time goes on, people don't pay attention to that, and they just want to believe, what they believe in some cases.
That's interesting. This is the first time I've had that thought that you just said. Well, every religion was started by a narcissistic, deluded con. I don't know how many of those con people were. I don't know how many of them were open eye and how many were closed eye. I suspect most of them were self-deluded rather than. I don't think that L. Ron Hubbard was self-deluded in the beginning.
He did it on purpose.
Yeah, we know he started a religion on a bet. We're aware of that fact. Mm-hmm. And so that makes it pretty clear that he didn't go into this honestly, I guess is the right word, at least self-deluded. But I think he probably became self-deluded over time because he was a psycho and an idiot.
Yeah, and it's the same story with Joseph Smith. It's literally the same story. This is a guy that was murdered in prison because of how much money he owed people. I mean, he tried starting his own bank in the U.S., he tried starting his own currency. He got a bunch of people to fund it, and it went belly up, and, he had a bunch of people that were very upset with him, and all of a sudden he finds golden plates. I mean, it's just a con man trying to figure out how to utilize religion to take advantage of people. And it's kind of true in most religions, unfortunately. Yeah.
Golden plates that he went and got more of after his wife burned some of the translations.
So actually it was Harris, the major funder. So when he was creating the Book of Mormon, he had, was it Harris, Joseph? Whoever the funder was, they create the first Book of Mormon. And
reading stones. He was reading seer stones out of a hat.
Right. So God was giving him this translation for the Book of Mormon, and his wife, after they were done with the first edition of this Book of Mormon, his wife then tells this funder, like, "Hey, I think this guy's taking advantage of you. So here's what we're going to do to test it. We're going to destroy this manuscript of the Book of Mormon and tell Joseph we lost it, go back to him, and if he reproduces something word for word, then we know it's legit and that he's really getting the word from God." And so as the story goes, they tell Joseph this, he gets upset, he tells them, "No, God's mad at me, now he won't talk to me," and it takes him another couple months of like praying and or whatever, looking at the seer stone, and then they come up with and then he says, "Look, that's why the second book is not going to be the same, because God is so upset with me. So this second draft's going to look a little different." So that's the story.
It's not unlike the Bible itself with Moses having to go up for a second round.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So
I bring you these 10 commandments.
That's a brilliant bit. So I wanted to get into you guys. So you guys, obviously, you're producers, you're actors, you're comedians. You're doing it all. You're creating things. You're working with huge talent out there. Why did you decide to use atheism as one of your platforms?
Well, first of all, come on, cut it out. I mean, we're just like you. I put a condom on one penis at a time, just like you. All right. So.
Me too.
And Heather does too. what got me into atheism was, it's actually a pretty great story. I thought of myself as an agnostic for a long, long time. And I was sitting in this living room, and I was cutting the Aristocrats with Paul Provenza. And he goes, at one point, you know, every once in a while you take a break from the work, and he turns around and he goes, so what are you, man? What's your belief? What do you believe in? And I go, I'm agnostic. And he goes, oh yeah. An atheist in the making. You're just a young atheist. And I remember being frustrated and irritated and going, no, I just told you what I am. You don't get to decide that I'm another thing. I don't know. About a year later, I realized I was an atheist, and that happened because working with Provenza, working with these really, really smart people, Paul Provenza, Penn Jillette, Teller, all of these folks that I'm now surrounded by are all intelligent, well-informed, strong atheists. And I realized that atheism is a place that I belong. And by that I mean, when I was calling myself an agnostic, I was doing that because I didn't want to have to argue with everybody. I didn't want to be the guy that was defending non-belief. I was really just being lazy, and I had convinced myself, just as we do in religion, I had convinced myself that my position was the higher position. My position as an agnostic was the loftier position. I placed myself intellectually and morally above others because I wasn't going to make a claim that I couldn't necessarily support, because you can't really prove these things with regard to claims about seer stones and Xenu and all that. You can't disprove them. So I thought I was taking the loss. I was wrong about that. And the fact of the matter is, I realized this. I realized that the agnostic position, the one I'm describing, because it can be many different things to many different people, but the one I was taking, the one I was holding, was that I was claiming that we can't know this. And that's as strong a position as the fundamentalist religious guy, as well as the fundamentalist atheist, if you will, which is a phrase I don't really think is an accurate phrase in general. Mm-hmm. But for discussion's sake, I'll use it here. These are all fundamental positions. To claim we can't know anything about God is also an empirical claim that can be proven, disproven, and or tested. So I wasn't above anybody as an agnostic. And once I realized that, I was comfortable calling myself an atheist. And once that happened, I realized I wanted to talk about the things that we're talking about right now with other people, because I realized, coming from the Midwest, there's a large swath of land filled by people who don't have what they would think of as a community with regard to these things, philosophically speaking. And in fact, they are mired down in a sea of belief. Mm-hmm. Everywhere around every corner of the globe. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to kind of build a community for people who had figured this thing out and wanted to have a place where they could go feel some community and talk with people who were like-minded.
I started out angry and upset because I felt like I had been lied to my entire life by my parents, by the church, by other people in my community, close community. And I decided that I wanted to basically be a spokesperson for those people. You know, people are afraid to come out and talk about their atheism, and I wanted to show them that, you know, this girl from Camden, New Jersey could speak loudly about it, and if she can do it, so can you. So, you know, before I even met Emery, I was shouting on Facebook and online about it and debating and arguing with people and learning.
In fact, that's how we met.
That's how we met, and learning as much as I possibly could about atheism and about religion, so that I could be able to have these discussions. And then when I met Emery and moved to LA, we decided to do a podcast, and that's where it all went from there. And as much as I enjoy doing the shows that we do, I still feel that same way. I want to be a spokesperson. I have a tattoo on my chest. I wear it right on my chest. And I want people to be able to look at me and start a conversation with me if they're not afraid, because a lot of people are afraid of that. And I'm open to it. I welcome it. And I just want to let people know that I'm not afraid, and you don't have to be either. And I'm not saying everyone. There are some places where declaring yourself an atheist can get you killed.
Yeah.
But hopefully, with people like me and Emery and you guys and other people in this community, that will start to change. I really, really hope it'll change.
Yeah, well, and that's what I love about what you guys are doing is you have entertainers coming on that have fan bases that are outside of this world. Like, you had Todd Glass on, Deborah Wilson. I mean, the list goes on and on. You had the director of The Simpsons on. And I really like that format, and I like tying in entertainment and comedy because I think people, like when they saw George Carlin, when they see Louis, or when they see, all these stand-ups that are picking on religion, people will laugh, and they get huge audiences. But people are just, again, when the topic always seems to come up, what religion are you? What faith are you? It doesn't matter what the format is, if it's like on NPR, if it's just in a coffee shop, or if it's on SportsCenter, what? I mean, this always comes up, and I fear that, and I kind of, based on experience and what you guys are saying, when you are the atheist, you are more tentative to say, I'm an atheist, because you don't want that label on you, because people are going to judge you, or they think it's a negative thing. So a lot of atheists just kind of say, I'm agnostic, or they'll say I'm culturally Jewish or culturally Christian. But what you guys are doing is bringing on people that, other people, the majority can identify with, and normalizing atheism. And I love that format.
And don't get me wrong, I sometimes worry about exposing myself as an atheist depending on where I am, and who I have to deal with in my life, in my day-to-day life. And also don't get us wrong with this either. When we are confronted with people who are religious, we try to be as sensitive as possible to what their beliefs are and talk to them, and not just, we're not screaming at people, on the street.
Yeah.
They're screaming at us. But if someone comes into our home who's a Christian, we don't, that's not.
I don't call them an idiot until they leave,
Right.
Yeah, well, I think Hannibal had that. I don't know if you guys saw his latest set. I think it was one of his latest sets where he's like, I'm an atheist, but I don't show up to your house and just, throw your Bible on the ground or throw your Quran on the ground and say, I don't believe in any of that shit. He was talking about how missionaries like Jehovah's Witnesses and things show up to his house and try to sell him on ideologies. And yeah, as atheists, it's tough. It's like, what do you do outside of, we do with the podcast and the events and things like that. But, how else do you normalize it? But I think, like I said, with comedy and the entertainment world, I really think that is a way of reaching people.
What's funny is I'm in school right now, and I wear a tank top and show my tattoo. And
your tattoo, say what it says. It says God did not make these.
No, it's. I wish. It says Ardent Atheist, mm-hmm. and no one has said anything to me, with the exception of one person, and that one person happened to be in my speaking class where we practice speech making, and the very first speech I gave was about me coming to atheism. So of course, one of the jokers in the class likes to rib me for it, but he, I believe he's probably a Christian. I don't know what he is, but he ribs me for it now. But it's friendly. It's not, hateful in any way. And no one else in the class has mentioned it at all, not even the teacher.
Interesting.
And it is very prominent.
Yeah, I mean, I wear it openly in school, and if anybody wants to talk to me about it, they can, but no one has wanted to talk to me about it. So,
what's the tattoo on the back of your head say?
The tattoo on the back of my head says "Free Thinker," and when I shave my head, you can see it.
Nice. So, I mean, what do you guys think about the firebrand approach? Like when we first came into this 4 years ago, it seemed like I saw a lot more firebrand. Again, like kind of what Heather was saying, a lot of people are really angry. They didn't have like an area to, kind of voice their opinion. So you see a lot on social media, things like that. What do you think about that firebrand?
Well, I'll tell you right now. First of all, oftentimes people confuse passion with anger, specifically with like the rants that I do. That's passion. It's not anger. I don't really have a lot of anger. So it's important to be able to separate those two things. When you see the Penn Jillette, when you see Penn Jillette, he's thought of as a firebrand. He's thought of as an angry atheist. Mm-hmm. He's neither of those things. He is a passionate person, and someone's style of delivering ideas is how we get branded as angry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are angry firebrand atheists out there. David Silverman is an apologetic, angry firebrand atheist. He calls himself that, and he likes that. So here's my answer to your question now. My answer is, I think that there is room for all different stripes of anybody who's standing up to ignorance, hatred, and the misery that religion brings. And I like that there are different flavors of us out there.
I was just going to say the same thing, and also I want to add that there are reasons for us to be angry. I mean, they're still stoning people. They're still over religion and beliefs and
throwing homosexuals off of buildings.
Yeah, I mean, people are still getting killed for being atheists. They're being thrown in jail for not believing.
And not just for being atheists, but for leaving Islam.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are reasons to be angry. There are people who are getting whipped hundreds of lashes because they have been declared
apostasy.
Yeah, they apostates or not even literally, they've just been declared that, so there's plenty of reasons to be angry. And if you're coming new to atheism right now, you're going to probably start off pretty fucking mad.
Yeah, usually when you make the transition out of a religion that you've given so much of your time, money, life, heart to, and you discover that it's a lie, that's a good reason to be angry at that point in your life.
Yeah, and the question is, now what do I replace this with? Which I think goes back to your earlier point of people just jumping into a different religion versus separating entirely and really assessing the whole concept as a whole.
Yeah, well, I recommend that you replace it with ice cream.
Yeah.
Cookies are good.
It's a lot sweeter.
Well, and it's tough in the West, though. I think that's part of our perspective that challenges us, because it isn't, obviously in the South, in the U.S., we have some issues. Islam's kind of going a little nuts in the U.K. right now. But for the most part, we can have these conversations. We can, put on these podcasts, make these movies, do what we kind of want to do with little resistance. But you guys are right. I mean, I was in Egypt and Kenya and Rwanda, and it's a different story. But it's hard for us to have that perspective here. And I guess, how do you get that out to people? How do you, illustrate what religion is actually still doing to the world today?
You keep talking about it.
You do what we're doing here. You do what Leah Remini is doing. Mm-hmm. You write books. You speak wherever you can speak if you're a person who can speak publicly. And
you show up.
You show up. That's exactly right. And listen, the average everyday Peter and Polly punch clock, they can do this. Admit that you don't believe. That's all.
Say it out loud and say it on forms and on papers that that you have to sign your name on. When they ask you to check what religion you are in the box, check other and write in atheist, if it's not there.
Yeah.
Just do it. Mm-hmm. Be counted.
Be counted.
Yeah. And you guys being in LA, I mean, that's a whole different ball of wax. You had mentioned the Midwest. We're in Milwaukee, very religious, Lutheran Catholic out here. Is there a different perception in LA? I know Scientology's kind of run rampant a little bit, but are there less religious, quote unquote, religious people in LA?
In LA proper, Hollywood, if you will, I almost never get the sense that there's a problem with my atheism when interacting with other people. And I will say this: there's a gradient as well. When you get outside LA, like up in Santa Clarita or down in Orange County, there's a lot more religious people, but they're a lot more tolerant of the non-religious because they're exposed to folks like me a lot more frequently.
At our local Starbucks, there are a few religious people who don't like us in there.
We had a guy yelling at us one day when me and two other guys were meeting, talking about a film that we're working on about atheism. And the the guy just sat there. He reads his Bible in this Starbucks all the time, and he sat there clearly stewing and turning his pages more and more angrily. And then eventually he followed one of the producers I was talking to out to the curb and started screaming that he would see to it that we would not ever be able to make this film. I mean, you know, when you're prone to delusion, it kind of runs deeper than just religion. And in this guy's case, it was pretty significant. This guy really thought that he had the power to stop us from working on a movie about religion.
And this guy works at Starbucks that their logo is a pagan goddess, right?
No, he didn't work there. He
was just a caffeine.
Okay.
Just a worshiper.
A worshiper of caffeine.
He's a regular there. So almost any time we go in there, you can find him sitting there reading his Bible.
I haven't seen him in there actually in at least 5 or 6 months. So
We haven't been there that much.
No,
lately.
I've been there, and I'm hoping that he was resurrected. That's my hope. What was it called when God
resurrected?
Takes,
Not resurrected.
No, that's
ascending into heaven.
I don't know. See, that's how far away from stupidity I've gotten. I don't even know the dumbass phrases anymore.
You hope he ascended into heaven?
He's probably just been on a religious retreat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if your job is to go around and chase producers for making secular films, you probably can't afford Starbucks for very long anyway. So
he angrily got on his bicycle and rode away.
Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to see, you guys had a conference, Logical LA. And I wanted to see, I said that right? Logical?
It is. It's Logical LA or Logical LA. You capitalize the C and it becomes clever. See what we did there?
Yeah. I loved it. What was the turnout? What was the feedback? What was the experience like?
The turnout was fantastic. The feedback was great. It went well. It went really, really well. We had started out kind of on the board with Bruce Gleason and Margaret Downey. And then we got really busy. I got really, really busy, and I had to kind of back away from being involved in the daily board work. And but I did. I produced a comedy show for them there, and it went great there. And they had a great turnout. I think he's planning on doing it again this year. L.A. I don't know why L.A. didn't have a skeptic or an atheist skeptic convention until now, but now they do. And I'm pretty excited about it.
Wow! So you guys are gonna keep it going?
Yeah, we're interested in continuing to take part in it as much as we can, scheduling allowing. Again, I repeat, I'm really excited that there's something in my backyard. It's really nice.
Yeah, a big hole to fill.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it's such a labor of love because this will be our 4th one. That we're working on, and the amount of hours, I mean, we literally meet every Sunday. We're talking about budget, guests, flights. I mean, there's so much work that goes into it. So, I definitely when it's over, you can, it's good when it's over, but man, like leading up to it, it's so stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and just like anything, you got to already be thinking about the next one before it even happens.
Right.
That's true. There's so much work and effort that goes into it, and expense. It's massively expensive to get a hotel to give you their big room to do these things in, and feeding people and all of that. It's crazy expensive. I used to wonder why did they charge so much to go to these things? And now that I've seen it happen, I understand why. They're not overcharging it at all.
That's a great point. And, one of the things we've been discussing about, and I guess, it's a good question for you and, a little insight for the audience. I mean, the amount of brainstorming that goes into these things. Now, I've kind of, over the last 4 years, I've seen how these conferences have started to shift. Some of them have gone out of business because they haven't made enough money. Are they getting too repetitive? Do we need to change up the way it works? Do we need to somehow modify how these things flow? Because it seems to me like the ones that were huge are all of a sudden starting to shrink and become irrelevant. And, what are some ideas there that we can keep this thing exciting and well attended?
I think, everyone has seen the big speakers. But then you have to have a draw. So it's hard because everyone has seen, Richard Dawkins, Lawrence Krauss, and all those people. And it starts to become repetitive. And then you got to figure out how to make it exciting and make it so that people will actually want to come out and spend the money on the conference. It's really hard unless you're doing something new.
Yeah, I think one of the tricks is to try and kind of merge more than just one idea, you know? Like, for example, if you could have like a nudist atheist convention. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that would fill up with, you know, some of those really cool. So I think the feminists would come out in droves.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, I heard you guys talking about nudist beaches and how everyone thinks it's going to be one thing and then it's not. You know, but yeah.
If anybody's confused about whether I was joking or not, I don't want to see atheists and skeptics naked generally.
Generally.
But yeah,
no, there are some on the list. Heather, for example, all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's tough, and you know, you want to keep people engaged, and you guys are right. I mean, a lot of people have seen the big names, and you know, is it time for, you know, like to focus on the up and comers? But then when you do that, you know, how do you make sure it's a draw, and how do you keep it fun? And it's
always tough. Always a blend.
Yeah. I think everybody should keep trying to do it until they can't. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see like every atheist person now is like 2 to 3 podcasts on their own, and you guys are no exception. You guys have 2 podcasts, over 100. It was the Ardent Atheists, almost 200 episodes now.
Yeah, over.
Yeah, for a couple years, like 3 years, we did them every single week. Now we're down to, because of scheduling and because of availability, we're really down to like 1 a month at this point. But we're not giving up. We're never stopping. When we can make a podcast, we make a podcast.
Yeah, and the guests you guys get is just fantastic. So I always look forward to that. But yeah, so we had a question Joseph wanted to ask about the Holy Shits sketch that we did.
Well, not really a question, but yeah, I mean, coming up soon. I know I haven't released it yet.
Soon, yeah.
But, you know, I've been working on the film, Batman and Jesus. It's kind of taken me away from my other thing, Holy Shit, which you guys so generously came out with Paul Provenza to do some filming last time I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to get that out right around when the premiere is taking place, so you can see that I actually edited it together already, and it's great.
It's awesome. Well, like one of the things our organization, kind of our foundation, is what we started on is questioning the historicity of Jesus. Now, I know you guys over 200 on Ardent, over 100 on Skeptically Yours. Has this topic come up? Have you guys talked about whether or not Jesus existed, and does it matter?
We have talked about that, and we're just, you know, ask everybody their opinion about it, because we're never gonna know the truth. There's just no freaking way of
maybe
knowing.
Not in our lifetime. One of my favorite things about Heather doing the shows is when religion comes up, whether it's on Skeptically Yours or it always comes up on Ardent Atheist, she always asks people who seem to have some sort of belief in something if the truth matters to them. Mm-hmm. And you know, the very religious people presume they have the truth. But when we've discussed it for an hour and a half on a podcast, and we've continually poked holes in the various things that people consider to be evidence, I'm air quoting there, you know, we definitely get people thinking, wondering whether or not they genuinely do have the truth. And I wish everybody would ask that question Heather asks of our guests. Does the truth matter to you? If the truth, real truth, the actual what is evident, what can be proven through evidence in the scientific process, if you will, if that really matters to you, you need to really stop and question what you're doing with regard to whatever belief you might hold. I wish more people would ask themselves that question.
No, it's a great question, but I guess my question was, do you think Jesus existed?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my God. I misunderstood your question altogether. Yeah, my answer to that question. All right. First of all, I think it's doubtful that he existed. That's my direct, right to the point answer to your question.
Beautiful.
But I want to follow that up with, I don't think that's even remotely as important as many of the other things that we should be talking about with regard to religion. The reason I say that is because if Jesus existed, he was a deluded guy who thought, well, first of all, if Jesus existed as represented by the Bible, and that's an accurate representation of what he was, who he was, and what he thought, he was a deluded guy. And if Jesus didn't exist, then a bunch of really ignorant people wrote these stories in order to create this idea of Jesus. The reason that I think that that's probably what happened is because all one need do is look carefully at many of the other religions, and you start finding the evolutionary process that led from point A to where we are now with the Jesus myth, point, X or Z. We're not at Z, because people will continue to make crap like this up. But it's obvious that the Noah story and the Jesus story and the birth of Jesus from someone who had never had a penis in her. These stories go way beyond the Christian myth. And so it's pretty obvious to me that it's not. It doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter. In my opinion, what we should be really focusing on, and this is just like the gay question. For years and years and years, I watched government and I watched activists arguing about whether or not homosexuality was natural, whether or not it was inborn in us, and is it a choice? That whole argument is moot in my opinion. And it not only is it moot, it clouds what's most important. Because what's most important in the discussion of sexuality is, are we not free? That is the real question. I'm really sorry about the dings, guys.
No, okay. You're blowing up.
That's the real question that we need to focus on. Really? Send your messages to me in one. Just type it out and then hit return or something. I don't need 3 different. Oh my God.
One of them probably just said LOL.
One's a smiley face, right?
So what we need to get to the root of the question and stop arguing about the details that don't really help us understand reality. It doesn't matter if God or Jesus existed or whether he is a figment of someone's imagination who wrote some books to control some people. It doesn't matter. In both of those scenarios, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Well, Heather, what do you think? What's your perspective?
I agree with Emery on this, and I just don't think it matters. No. I don't know if he existed or not, but that's not really important right now. What's important is all the horrible things that people are doing through the beliefs they have from their religions, and how are we going to stop it?
Right.
Yeah. And we always say too, if we can get people to, just talk about the supernatural claims as bullshit, that's a win. Whether or not he existed, that doesn't matter. Obviously, the evidence, it looks like, he probably didn't. But the supernatural claims that people, have been passing down for centuries, this, as long as they can say, well, that's all bullshit, I think that's a win.
Right. It's like, did the person in the Bible exist that did all these things? We can answer that. Was there really a person is not an answerable question.
Right.
Yeah,
at this point.
The answer to the question is, did these people exist, is who gives a shit? That is my answer.
Not this version.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just don't care. I don't care.
Well, it's interesting. I'll tell you guys a little story. When I went to Kenya in 2015, I met with Harrison Mumia, and we've had him on the show a couple of times. He's doing awesome work out there. He's the only atheist group. There's, 14 million residents, and he's the only atheist group in that country, and he has like 40 people that show up to his meetings, and like 20 of them are Christians just to yell at him. I mean, the type of shit this guy gets, it's insane. And, I met with him, and I said, I was asking him about his projects, and I said, what is the biggest thing that you guys are talking about right now? And he said, whether or not Jesus existed. And I said, well, that's interesting, So, I mean, I think it is a topic that atheists and religious people do like to debate. But yeah, does it really matter in the end? Probably not, because of all these atrocities that are happening, but it definitely is a peak of interest of some.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, one of the reasons that it doesn't matter to me is because if you can prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that Jesus didn't exist in any way, in some way, and we'll say, in any way, if it can be proven, it will then be denied by those who believe.
Yeah.
Oh, true. Agreed. Yeah.
That's the result of that effort.
Mm-hmm.
It will be denied.
Yeah.
When they're denying that the Earth has been here for 4 billion plus years, in the face of undeniable evidence, what is the point of using that pathway? Okay, you don't believe the Earth. You think the Earth was made in 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. That's what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then let me convince you with this other thing that you're going to deny. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that too, because I don't know when this started becoming in vogue, but this flat earther stuff. Can someone explain this to me? I saw Kyrie Irving talking about it. Shaquille O'Neal was like backing him up. I mean, we're getting like these major pop stars that are just saying that the Earth is flat. What is going on?
Yeah, I can explain it. Marijuana is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, I heard Shaq. He was like, "Explain to me, if I drive from the West Coast to the East Coast, why can't I see? Why isn't it round?
That was a good impression.
I look into the horizon and it's flat.
Like Magellan figured this out. Like I don't understand where is this topic coming from all of a sudden?
So you're surprised that the sports guy isn't smart?
But it's not just him though. I mean, these are like the celebrity representatives.
You're surprised that
but
the rap artist
an
isn't
honorary degree he had, that man.
Yeah,
has.
right,
Honorary
exactly.
degree. Keep that in mind.
But it seems like it's getting more and more popular on social, and more people are talking about it. I'm just...
Social media is the reason that conspiracy has become more popular than it ever was.
That's true.
I think that one's like a reaction. Like, people want a reaction. I mean, that's just pretty... I don't know. Although I will say Kyrie Irving does seem genuine when he says that stuff.
100%.
They are. I think many of these people are being genuine when they say these things. And the fact of the matter is, human beings, this scientifically is true, human beings want to believe that they've got some inside information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're kind of wired to be this way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we really should be doing is teaching that to students in school so that they can understand how they can become deluded and have faulty processes. We're wired that way for good reason, in terms of natural selection and survival, but it certainly doesn't serve you well on Facebook.
Yeah, and that was that's where that whole common enemy thing comes from. Well, they don't believe in what I believe, and this is where religions really thrive. They don't believe the way we believe. We have the true answer. They don't, and then that's where that inherent bigotry comes from, and endless wars and things of that nature. It's just, yeah, you're right. It's just the same pattern repeating over and over. But why flat Earth though? Like that's what drives me insane. It's like, what?
'Cause they ran out of other shit. Just run out of every shit. I mean, the 9/11 conspiracies. The what else? What other conspiracies are there?
The moon
JFK.
landing.
There's a lot.
The fact of the matter is, they got tired and they wanted to move on to the new comic book. That's it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the fact that we have anybody who's ever flown from Australia to here knows that the Earth is curved. And they also understand that you need to get a certain height in order to actually visually see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But what feeds it more than anything is the general conspiracy mind. The idea that you can't trust the information you've been given from anybody.
Right.
Once you're able to transcode that fear over onto science, then it's just a wide open field of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's so maddening to me. It's like, we're always talking about science. We just had Peter Boghossian on, Michael Shermer, like all these scientists, that have the scientific method. They're using evidence to prove what they're saying. And, to see celebrities who have like really good influence on people, like people will follow their role models. And when they start going against, the flat earth thing, the global warming thing, I mean, it's a huge detriment. I love that's what you guys do, is you guys get celebrities on the show where you can actually challenge some of their thought processes, because they've made this career out of influencing people and getting people to like them, and if they're spouting off against what's in our best interest, that's a huge problem for us.
Well, you got to call bullshit when somebody says, well, why am I not sideways when I go around the earth? Because if it was round, I would be sideways and upside down sometimes. It's like, well, you have a fundamental misunderstanding of a lot of things.
Yeah, no, that's just a side effect of not going to school and spending every waking moment that you have to become the best at one thing, like basketball, or rapping. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that really is the problem. I'm surprised it took this long for this one to rear its ugly head. That really is it. It's just ignorance, and ignorance is not stupidity. These are smart people in certain realms, but they're ignorant of a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you make science cool again? I don't know if you guys saw it on Netflix. Norm Macdonald's new special is out, which is fucking hilarious.
I did watch it just a couple nights ago.
Oh my God, it was so. I thought it was hilarious. I've always been a huge Norm fan. I know there's a lot of people that don't like him, but the one bit that he did on fame and how fame has changed, and how in the 80s, if you went to the moon, you were like super famous, and now if you're a chick with a big butt on social media, you're famous, and the people going to the moon are no longer of any interest. And I guess, how do you make science cool again?
Well, I think that's happening as we speak, but if I think the answer lies in someone's intellect and someone's ability to learn. In other words, by ability, I don't mean ability, opportunity to learn plays a major role in where you fall on these kinds of things. DNA plays a major role in how effective we are at logic and reason. And the fact of the matter is, there's a huge bell curve in our society, and you can't be surprised when, with regard to the flat Earth idea, that there are people on one side of that bell curve that fall for this bullshit. You shouldn't be surprised. Honestly, at the end of the day, the reality is we should be surprised there aren't more people buying into it, because there is a bell curve of intelligence. That's another thing that's unmistakable. There will always be really stupid people, or really ignorant people, I guess I should say. There are also really stupid people. Yeah.
But it takes a long time to catch up. And like you were saying earlier with the authors of these gospels and scriptures and stuff from the past, I mean, those were, we refer to them as stupid now, but at the time they were among the most intelligent people. They could read and write and communicate these higher ideas, even if, today they're very primitive. At the time, who knows what these other 90% of the people that couldn't even read, what were they doing?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm amazed by how surprised people are that there are people that fall for stupid shit. 80% of the United States, according to most polls, believes in Jesus Christ. So that's
tough. Well, it's not even what we're doing in our country. Like when I was in Kenya, I was staying at an orphanage that had 500 kids. 30% of them had full-blown AIDS, which is extremely sad. And we were out there to help build a self-sustaining water system for them. But they had this missionary group in from, of course, Florida. And there's like 8 women that are there, and like they're there teaching the kids how to read, but they're teaching them how to read through Bible verses, and they've trained these kids to, they see a Westerner, they see an American that's there, or someone European or whatever that's there to help. they have this pitch where they go up and Jesus loves you and I love you as much as Jesus, and it's just this pitch that they know they're trying to pull on your heartstrings to adopt them, quote unquote adopt them, pay whatever, $50 a month or whatever. But it's the West out there doing that and it's like I was just pulling my hair out. I was just so upset. I'm like, we should be teaching them science and how to become more self-sustaining and, some of the things that they truly needed to know. And, instead they're getting Bible verses shoved down their throat. It's very maddening.
Right. I'm with you on that. It's awful. And what we need to see as much as we can is we need to see non-believers doing this kind of work too.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I love you guys play the Foundation Beyond Belief commercial every podcast, which I think is awesome.
Well, yeah, they say that statistically in the world in the next 10, 20 years, atheism and becoming non-religious is on the rise in the United States, but in the rest of the world, particularly Africa, South America, religious people are going to increase in that time.
Yeah.
Well, that's our hour, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the time. We loved having you guys on. What's coming up at Gateway to Reason?
Yeah, we're going to St. Louis. Apparently, you can actually buy a ticket to ride in a helicopter with Heather or with me.
Awesome.
Wow. Or not together?
Well, no, Heather and I never fly together because someone has to make it back to feed the bird.
Right. Makes sense.
No, it's, there's only room for one of the special guests, and by special, I mean, Special Olympics. But so that's pretty exciting. We're looking forward to that. And we're going to be doing, from the stage, we're going to be doing a live podcast for the audience that we'll then put up afterward.
Awesome.
So we're looking forward to that.
Right on.
Yeah, we
like things. We do like going out and doing the conventions.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun, and I try to tell people all the time to go. And again, I think some people just like me. I was never really that great in school because lectures always killed me. So like lecture. It's a little tough. It's kind of makes it for a long day, but going out, networking with people, meeting people that believe the same way that you do, I think is always fun. And there's, you guys are doing the podcast. There's a lot of side events that go on. So yeah, definitely. If you haven't been to a conference, get to one, and support it. But do you guys have any final thoughts before we let you go? Heather, you're very quiet. I want to make sure that, we hear what's on your mind.
I'm sleepy.
Aw, Emery always dominates, doesn't he?
Jerk.
Yeah, sorry.
No
okay.
worries.
I'm good. Thank you.
Well,
and you guys, when is your convention?
So ours is September 30th, where we have a debate on the future of Islam in the age of Trump between Faisal Saeed Al-Muhtar and Asra Nomani. We have Armored Skeptic and Shoe on Head from YouTube will be speaking. Sargon of Akkad from YouTube and Thomas Smith, and we're showing the Batman and Jesus movie.
Yes,
awesome.
The premiere.
I can't wait to see that film, man. It's a really great idea, and I know your listeners know about it, so I'll leave it at that. But
thank you.
Thank you.
It's really brilliant what you guys are doing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we hope to make some noise with it. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Myth Informed. Myth Informed is brought to you by Mythicist Milwaukee. Producer Sean Frasick. Associate producers Fritz Blondon and Kristen Whitaker Hood. Engineer Josh Benishek. Technical consultant Jason Lawson. And hosts Brian, Dimitri, Jacob, and Joseph. Every week we produce a new podcast that sheds light on religion, secularism, and mythology. If you enjoy this show, please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/mythicist. Mythicist Milwaukee also brings major secular conferences and debates to the Milwaukee area, along with community events, both local and online. To support us in bringing future events, become a member at mythicistmilwaukee.com to receive member-only benefits. You can also visit mythicistmilwaukee.com and hit the donate button located at the bottom of each page to place a financial donation amount of your choice. And now, the closing theme, written and performed by Shelley Siegel.
There was a Athena's wisdom and beauty, and Hades underneath. Isis of fertility, and ether of the Greeks. They all lie at rest, and who will be the next to die? You know they are all myths, and who will be the next to die? There was a time when everyone believed. Helios in the sun, Poseidon in the sea. Athena's wisdom and beauty, and Hades underneath. Isis of fertility, and ether of the Greeks. They all lie at rest, and who will be the next to die? You know they are all myths, and who will be